Starting. All right, there we go. All right, hello everyone. I am TJ from the NativeScript team, and today I have Mike and Nick Brainstein, co-authors of NativeScript in Action, also collectively known as the Brainsteins. Thanks, guys, for joining me today.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks.
So just to start off, do you want to give a quick introduction to who you are, and then also explain sort of how you got involved with NativeScript?
Sure. Nick, why don't you go ahead and start off?
Yeah, my name is Nick Brainstein, half of the Brainsteins. I am a senior developer at Kaizen Technologies, and I also am a Telerik developer expert. I have been using NativeScript since the beta phases, which was, 2 or 3 years ago, I think now. I really like JavaScript and TypeScript, and being a developer, I like to tinker with all the new, latest and greatest JavaScript libraries that come out daily, maybe even hourly. But anyways, I've been using NativeScript since the beta phases, and it's really awesome and quick way to create mobile apps. So I'm really enjoying it thus far.
Yeah, and I'm Mike Branstein, the better half of the Brainsteins, according to both of our spouses. And
not true.
No, I've been we're both .NET developers. We started back when .NET was great again, and but we were looking for a mobile solution for us, and just kind of got disenfranchised with what was available in the Microsoft area around mobile apps. And we knew, and we were both kind of in the consulting business for software developers. And when I started using NativeScript back in the beta days, my first app just ran, and it worked on both platforms. I didn't have to do anything special, and that's what really got me hooked. And we started probably 2 years ago and had a great summer meetup. We did 3 meetups around NativeScript for our summer of NativeScript, and that really got us hooked and got me super interested in this. And again, I love JavaScript as well, and I love C# as well. But it just worked, and it seemed really cool for me.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny because I remember that same moment for myself back, I think I was testing on NativeScript 0.4, like back in the day. I don't even think we had officially called it beta yet, but even in those days, just the first time you write some JavaScript and see it in an actual like native iOS or native Android app, it just sort of clicks like, wow, this is pretty darn cool. And so where I want to go from here is for those of you watching, the Brainsteins and I share a little bit of a special connection because they are working on a book published by Manning, and I have also previously written a book by Manning. And so with that in mind, I wanted to ask you, writing a tech book is no small feat. I know this myself. So what made you think that you wanted to actually put in the effort to write a book on NativeScript?
Maybe I'll start.
Yeah.
I've got this deep passion inside of me for learning and teaching. I did a semester as a college professor as a favor to somebody, and I've just always been involved in learning, and that's what I love doing, is teaching, getting up in front of people, speaking, and it just felt like a natural progression of there was this opportunity to write a book, and I wanted to jump on it, but I thought the only way really for me to be ultra successful was to bring in Nick, because he's got this deep love of JavaScript. So I think together as a pair, we thought that this would just be an awesome opportunity to get some great content out there, involve the community. And so that's really what drove me to write the book. And I think maybe I drove Nick to write the book with me, perhaps, and I'm just bringing him along.
That's probably part of it for sure. I don't maybe necessarily enjoy writing so much, but I enjoy technology a lot, and I do share Mike's passion for bringing technology to other people. I think anyone in the office here at work would probably agree with that. And for me, it was, a lot of discussions with Mike on, this is going to be a lot of work. And to be 100% honest, I was on the edge, but I thought to myself, this may be a once in a lifetime opportunity, and if I turn this down, it may never come up again. So, I'm going to give it a shot, and so here we are.
And what Nick does really well, Nick's a great teacher, and be able to get down with other coworkers, and he just knows how to talk on their level and explain things in a concise, easy way. So I knew he'd be good at that explanation part, where sometimes I can get into the weeds, and my explanation ends up being 50 pages. Nick's
Mine are like 5 pages.
Yes.
But it works out.
If we clearly meet in the middle, then it'll
be perfect.
Yeah, it'll be perfect.
So with that in mind, NativeScript in Action, is it a book that, what's your target reader level? Is this something that someone who has never heard of NativeScript is going to be able to pick up and learn? Is this something you have to have existing experience at? Like, who's your target audience here?
I think our target audience is somebody who, you've got some familiarity with web design. Mm-hmm. So HTML, JavaScript, CSS, even though NativeScript doesn't necessarily require HTML, but if you understand some basics of web development, you should be able to pick up our book, and we're teaching you from the ground. And it's not just, you're going to learn how to create like 1 or 2 apps like we are in the book, but you're learning the basics and understanding how NativeScript works and why it works, which I think is so essential. So yes, you're going to build 3 apps with us throughout the course of the book, but you're also going to learn how those apps work. So you're not at the end of the book just like, hey, nice, I created 3 apps. No, I understand NativeScript at its core, and I understand how it works and how all these components play together to create a mobile app.
Yep. I don't really have anything to add to that. But
yeah, no, very cool. And I sort of agree with that it's more than just, I should also say that I've been an editor on the book, so I've seen most of it so far. And I think what you guys do really well is exactly what you say, that not only just sort of a do this type of thing, but do this, and this is why we're taking this approach. This is why this works. This is how you can apply this sort of thing to your own development, that sort of thing as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's very geared towards beginner, I would say.
Yeah, definitely beginner.
And and that's what I want. I want it to be more accessible for, even if you've never written a mobile app, I want you to find this joy of it. It almost feels like there's this barrier of, wow, I've done a web app, but how do I really get this to mobile? Or I've done desktop app development before. How do I get this to mobile? Mm-hmm. And there's almost this barrier in somebody's mind of, mobile is hard. You have to know all this extra stuff. And
not with NativeScript.
No, I want you to be very accessible for somebody to just jump in and say, well, let me try this. If you're willing to give us a couple hours of your time in the book, you're going to find that it is easy. That barrier to entry, NativeScript makes it extremely low and easy for you to get started. And that's where I get excited. And that's what excited me, because I hadn't necessarily done a lot of mobile apps. I've explored and just said, wow, this is hard. And when I started with NativeScript, it was like, wait a minute, this isn't hard. This is incredibly easy. And it led me down the path of wanting to learn more about iOS, wanting to learn more about Android. So that just opened up this whole nother area of interest that I didn't realize I had.
Yeah, and I would sort of put myself into the same bucket, because I'm never like a trained mobile developer. I never built a native iOS app. I never built a native Android app. I've sort of tinkered and built some like silly list apps, but that's sort of the extent of my knowledge there. But I do have that web experience, right? I've been building apps for the web for quite a long time, and that's really the appeal of NativeScript, is that someone like me that has always wanted to build apps, and I've had needs like customer needs, client needs, that sort of thing as well. But all of a sudden that barrier, fairly drastically changed. So it's very cool that that's sort of the same audience that you're seeing as well. So the last thing I want to ask you about is, because this is something that I think a lot of people, a lot of developers are sort of curious about the processes that go into writing a tech book. So I was just wondering if you could share, just some of the logistics around how you write the book, like, how often you're working on it. Do you run into writer's block? How you deal with that? Just any sort of, anecdotal things that you can share behind the process to give people a little glimpse into how the magic happens.
Yeah. So speaking from experience, don't wait till the last minute to try to write your chapter or whatever section that you need to work on, because it's like in school. Don't wait till the last minute to do your project, right? Yeah. So for me, I try to put in 1 or 2 hours every night. Some nights I may not make it because I'm just not. I can't think of anything. Maybe that's the writer's block. But the more frequently that I work on it, I find that like it's easier to get my content done that I need it done, and it need to get done, and it's really a test of maybe attrition of keeping up doing it. And if I ever get stuck or whatever, for me, I go for a run, to be honest. It helps clear my mind, kind of relieve stress, because writing the book has been a little bit stressful, I would say, probably for both of us. But that generally kind of like resets myself and gets me ready to kind of sit down and crunch through some more words.
For me, so looking at the deciding even to write a book wasn't just a discussion between Nick and I. Our spouses and our families were part of that. Like we said, we're probably going to need to dedicate 2 hours a day, and weekends especially, and be able to pull some of that time. So my wife and my kids have been really excited and very supportive of that process. For writer's block, I mean, and more back to the process, really, it's, we've got chapters that we each have assigned to us, and we've got 2 to 3 weeks to work on a chapter and get an initial version out. And as we go through and start layering other chapters on top of the existing ones that we've written, we come to a point where, I might have writer's block on a chapter I'm working on, but there's an opportunity and always time to go back and respond to feedback from all of our reviewers, our editors, just to look at a previous chapter and refine it. And there's always more you can do. At some point for me, it's, I got to step back and say, enough is enough. Let's put it out there, get more feedback from people. Feedback early and often is absolutely valuable. So that's kind of how I've approached it. And writer's block, when I get it, I just go back and look at another chapter and see what else I can change.
And so I also have to ask, what's the process of co-authoring been like? It's been funny for me being an editor on the book, because when I get a new chapter, like, you don't exactly put who wrote it. So but I've read enough chapters now that I sort of have an idea when I get a chapter who I'm looking at. I'm wondering what that's been like from your perspective.
One of the things I think that Mike and I have always done well is kind of really work well together. We may get into verbal agreements every now, disagreement, verbal agreement be preferential, but we may argue about things every now and then, but we've really, over the years, we've worked together really well for the most part, and we know what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. Getting back to answering your question is that a lot of times, like, the way that I write, I'm maybe a lot more technical, and Mike knows that I am not as good writing as he is. He's really good at refining and going over and proofreading, and that's how we've always worked together. Back even when I was in like junior high, I'd say, "Hey, Mike, can you take a look at this for me?" Because he is the elder brother. That doesn't mean he's the better brother, but so he's always like been able to be there to kind of proofread my work, and so that's kind of how we've always kind of played off with each other. So in writing the book, it was kind of natural that, he would kind of come by later and look at and give me tips and help, manipulate stuff after I wrote it even. I don't know if you have anything to add, but it works really well for us.
We both have a vision of what we want to try to convey, and what does work really well is Nick laying down a base layer, and then what's important in a book is, even with dual authors, is having a single tone and voice throughout that entire book. So I'll come through and refine for tone, so it sounds like it's coming from a single person, even though it really is a combination of Nick's ideas and his delivery, and then just some fine-tuning on word choice and the way you say things, because I talk in a very specific way all the time, and I write in that specific way, and Nick does in a very different way. So we just want it to be uniform as we go through the book.
Very cool. So I don't want to take up too much of you guys' times today. I know you've got a book to finish. So the last thing I'll ask is, where are things at? Where can people get the book if they're interested in it?
Absolutely. So we've got 2 chapters left to deliver to our editors, and so look for that coming soon, Jay. And you can find out more if you first go to nativescript.org. There's some information in the book there. Also, you can go to bit.ly/NS-in-action. That stands for NativeScript in Action, and you should be able to go right to our book, as well as you can find it at manning.com.
and Bransteins.com too.
That's
so
right.
you can go to our website. And, there's a link up top there for getting the book. So.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys for joining me today. Best of luck with the book. That's about it.
Great. Thanks, TJ.
Thanks, TJ.